Hello, today is the 8th of July 2024. There's a few bits that happened in the past few days. The main thing that happened was yesterday evening, and that's what I'm mainly going to talk about. But I like to say 2-3 small important lessons that I had in the past few days as well. Yeah, so first of all, it was my birthday on Thursday, and I had a really lovely time, and Mario, my friend from Spain, he texted me and his message was so nice and so friendly that it really brought me to tears. Like, it meant so much to me. And his birthday was 2 days later. And we texted over and back then on those days and in between, and our messages were just so genuine and so open that I knew we genuinely liked each other. As you may know, when I was in Spain, I met up with him a few times, 3 times, and I already knew there was potential between us to either be really good friends or even more. And I had hope and stuff as well, and he was just someone where in my depression, when I imagined the perfect person to be in my life, he ticks all of those boxes and he even exceeds them. He goes above and beyond them. And in my depression, I never got that person who was supposed to be my savior, basically, and help me through that time. And so at some point I realized I have to be that person myself. And so I didn't yearn for anyone else to save me anymore. And I was it's just not meant to be right now. It's not the right time, and it wouldn't be fair to either of us to have a relationship in that time. But now, just now that I've met him and he has come into my life, I just look back on the person I always thought of and imagined, and he ticks all of those boxes. And I just feel so accepted around him. I feel I can be myself, and that is a completely new experience. For the first time, it's as if I could actually see that it is possible to find my people, to find friends, because at some point I didn't even think it was possible to meet people like him. I didn't know if people like that existed anymore. Because I didn't have anyone like that in my life where I could be completely myself. And the people that I imagined, I didn't know if people like that even existed. And now that he came into my life, I was it's actually possible. People like that actually exist. Then on Saturday, I was working with one of my colleagues, and she's 23, so she's around my age, and we get along really well as well. And I can imagine us being friends, or not necessarily that we would meet up a lot, but that we would always kind of stay in contact, and we care about each other and check in on each other. And she's just a really lovely person as well. Yeah, we had such deep and amazing conversations on Saturday. Almost every time we work together, we go deep and really just open up and are so honest and vulnerable, but in a really good way. And we help each other and support each other and really care about each other. Yeah, we had a really lovely conversation as well about not feeling good enough, or being paranoid about doing something wrong, or when people point out we do something wrong, how embarrassed we get, and how it's hard for us to deal with it and to process that it doesn't make us dumb right away. If we make a mistake or get corrected, it's okay and it happens. stuff like that. Yeah, I had a really nice day, and I really, really like working with her. We both said that we're just so relaxed whenever we come into work, and we know we're working with each other. We're like not stressed about anything, and we're like actually looking forward to that day of work. And on Friday evening, I went climbing with one of my other colleagues who I spoke about in my last video, and we also like talked about how we both like don't feel good enough or are scared to make mistakes, and we feel like we have to be smart because that's kind of our only protection. So that's the colleague I went climbing with, and she is older than me. She's, I think, around 35 or something. And she's also, yeah, very lovely. She's a lovely person, and I like her, and I've always enjoyed climbing. And there's a person who comes into the shop who suggested we could go climbing with her like months ago already, and I never really felt up for it. But for some reason, since I'm back from Spain, I'm more like adventurous, and I'd like to do more things as well. And so I was just like why not? What can I lose? Why don't I just go and try it out? And so I mentioned it to my colleague, and she was like, oh, if you're going, then maybe I'll go with you. And I was like, yeah, definitely. So we went together, and it was very nice. Like, of course, there's this unsure part in me that's always like a bit unsure about everything and doesn't really know if I like it that much. But honestly, that group of people, and it was just a small climbing hall, they were like a family, and so they weren't like judging and like looking at every step you're making or every mistake you make or whatever, but they were like really supportive and really teaching you how to climb properly, and I did feel comfortable enough there. Yeah, there was just the last climb that I did was on a wall that wasn't so high, and we weren't in a harness for that, and of course there was a soft surface underneath us, so if we did fall then we would land softly. And I already could feel that, like, as I was like climbing to the top and was almost at the top, my arms like were shivering, like shaking so hard. My arms were already, they were so weak at that point, and I was like already like seeing, yeah, I could fall because I could barely hold on anymore, but I was kind of still trying to get to the very top because I was like, no, I'm not gonna fall, like I'm gonna reach the top. But it took me a long time to figure out, okay, where do I put my legs? Where do I put my hand to reach the top? And in that time of thinking about how to reach the top, my arms just failed me, and I fell. I fell from basically the very top to the ground. And my colleague saw that, and also one of our customers who comes into our shop, who suggested us to go climbing, she saw that as well, and there was some other people around, but I don't know if they were watching. To be honest, I wasn't like scared at all, and I didn't hurt myself whatsoever. Like, the customer, like, she came over to me and she was like, are you okay? Like, did you hurt yourself? Like, that was quite a fall. But honestly, I was like completely fine. I didn't hurt myself whatsoever. I just landed on one side of me. And she then tried to explain to me like what is dangerous about falling, because like if we hit stuff and so on, and there's a specific way that you're supposed to like jump back if you feel like you can't hold on anymore. But honestly, it just went so quick, like I wasn't even able to decide to jump back now, because it just kind of all happened. There was like a part of me that was like really embarrassed, but honestly that part was not in the foreground. Like, I could somehow like feel it a bit in the background, but it didn't really bother me as much, because I was like, it kind of is all a part of it, and like I can like fall. Like obviously when you climb, like you have to be aware that you can fall, like that is possible. And it was just the very last climb after 2 hours of climbing, and I never go climbing. I don't do any like sports, so of course my arms are gonna be weak. So yeah, I mean, there was a part of me that was really embarrassed, and that was like, oh, how am I gonna deal with this? Like once I'm in the car and at home and thinking back on it, like thinking back, am I gonna like be completely embarrassed and not know how to deal with it, or will I be fine? Because it kind of felt like I'll be fine, but another part of me just was really embarrassed. After that, like I was okay. Then for me the climbing session was over, and my sister and mom were already waiting for me to go home, so we went into the car, and on the way back I was just really tired, but I was really like proud and happy that I did it and that I went climbing, and it was cool. Like it wasn't bad or anything. Like I can imagine going there again. Yeah, it was a nice time. It was nice to just get out and do something new. And on the way back though, I was really like just tired, and not just tired from climbing. It was kind of as if I was like very exhausted as well, like mentally. And so I just leaned my head back and looked out the window so no one could see me, and I just closed my eyes. And then what I could feel is how I don't feel alive most of the time, and how since we lost that house and that property and I lost a part of myself, I haven't actually felt fully alive, and I haven't felt like I'm actually here, like I'm actually present. It feels like a part of me is always somewhere else and not here. And I got brought back to the last night we had in that house, knowing that the next day all of that would be gone. And none of it was my own decision. I wasn't ready to lose any of that. I wasn't ready to say goodbye. It was just taken away from me. There is just so much that happened I can't even begin to describe, but when I lost all of that, like all that I knew before that house and property was depression, was wanting to die, not wanting to live anymore. That is what I knew. And when I moved into that house and that property and had that nature around me, I broke out of my depression, and I suddenly knew what happiness was again. I suddenly knew what happiness felt like and what gratefulness actually means. I learned so much, and I didn't know who I was outside of that property. I always knew that I am myself. I am not the property and the home. That means even if I lose all of that, I am still myself, and I will be okay at some point or another. And a part of me always will be okay. And even in this last year, there was a part of me that was always okay. But the bigger part of me didn't know who I was without all of that, didn't know if I could survive without that. For like at least half a year afterwards, I was completely not in the present moment. Like almost every part of me was somewhere else. I wasn't here, and I resisted being here because I was so afraid of realizing that everything I had, that perfect picture, that wholeness is gone. I wasn't ready to realize that because I didn't know how I was able to survive that. But now, more and more, I am ready to see what happened to me, and I can see more and more. There's so much that happened to me, so much that went on inside of me. It's like, it's incredible, like it's crazy that so much can go on with just losing something. And I'm gonna go into more detail or talk a bit more about that later, but anyways, when I was in the car, I was brought back to the last night we had there, and I remember sitting in bed and looking around at my empty room, which used to be so full of life. And I could feel myself being as empty as this room. It was as if I was being packed away, as if I was losing myself. And I could feel, and I remember thinking the thought that I am dying. And this sounds so dramatic and it sounds so stupid and weird, but the thing is, a part of me was dying because a part of me didn't know who it was without all of that. Obviously, a part of me was so identified with that place and that house, which wasn't good, and I was aware of that, and I was trying to not identify with it. But I'm still human, and I was identified with it, and when I lost it, I was shattered and I was broken, and a part of me died with that place. A part of me was lost with that place. And I just remember feeling like I'm actually dying, like a part of me is just dying. And in the car, I could feel that part of me which had died. I could feel that part of me which had slipped away from me, which had died, which had been lost. And then when I felt it, and I was so aware of that part, I could see that this part that felt unalive, a part that felt dead and lost, was in me this entire past year. And that's why I was never able to fully enjoy anything. I was never able to fully, genuinely smile and completely mean it. I was never able to be fully present with what is. Because there was a part of me that wasn't alive. And because every time I got closer to the present moment, I got closer to realizing a part of me was lost. And I could so strongly in the car feel the pain of dying, like the loss of yourself, feeling yourself slipping away because you don't know who you are without that property. Even though I knew I was still completely myself, I was still the complete same, even without that property in that house. But I couldn't feel it. I could just feel myself slipping away. And every day of this past year, I have been grieving in some way or another. Some days I grieve so strongly and it's so painful. Other days I'm okay, but I'm still lost. Some part of me is still gone. And so I'm never fully whole, never fully present. The thing is, I know that I can get back there probably easier than I can imagine, because that is what the house and the property taught me. That I am whole in myself. I have everything I need to get through anything and everything you can imagine. If I find that inner freedom, that inner peace. There is nothing that can shake me, nothing that can destroy me. And I know that that part is in every single one of us. And I felt that way before. I felt so unshakable, so strong, so at peace. And I knew it was unshakable. And even though it feels like that part is now lost, I know that I can get back there so easily, because that peace is so simple and so easy. But I think first I just have to realize that I don't have to let go of that property and that house and of my family members who I lost to a certain extent on my mom's side of the family. I don't necessarily have to say goodbye and have to realize that I lost them, but I can find a way to live knowing that it will never be the way it was before. Because that is a fact. But it doesn't mean I have to say goodbye to all of that. And the thing is, I never wanted to say goodbye. I was never ready to say goodbye to any of it, because I had to know that it's still possible for me to live that way again. And it felt like if I were to say goodbye, then I'd never be able to get back there. I'd never be able to have that again. And I just need to know that it's possible to live that way again, to be so free and so at peace. And that's what I realized yesterday evening. I don't have to say goodbye. I have to realize that it'll never be the same way it was, and I'll never have that back. But I don't have to say goodbye to who I was and what I had, because it is all in me. It's still there. It's still possible to be that way again, and to be that way in a fresh way, and in an even broader and bigger and newer way. But basically, all of this is kind of like more what I realized and learned yesterday evening. But what I mainly felt in the car was just how I felt that last evening, that last night, where a part of me died, and I knew a part of me was gonna be lost with that house and the property. It doesn't mean I'll never get that back, but that is what I felt and lost that last night. And yeah, there was tears just streaming down my face, and I don't think anyone noticed me in the car because my head was tilted the other direction. But yeah, it was a very healing moment and very warm. It felt like I was just being hugged, and there was something so gentle about it, even though there was something so horrible and painful about it too. Yeah, and it might be a good idea to make this video 1 and video 2, because I'm definitely gonna be saying so much more, and then this video is just gonna be too long. So let's just leave this as part 1, and now I'm gonna go on to part 2, which is mainly about what happened yesterday. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you in part 2, hopefully. Bye.